Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Intersentia. They are Belgium-based publishers, and they're also based in Cambridge, and they've contacted me and asked me if I'd like to review this book, and I looked at it and thought, yes, this is a book which I think is very interesting. It's called Procedural Environmental Rights, Principle X in Theory and Practice, and it's been edited by Jerzy, Jendroska and Magdalena. And as I say, it comes to us from Intersentia. We've given our review title the following: Environmental Law Through a Pan-European Lens, a research compendium of current thinking on the environment. Very much the house style of Intersentia. I think it's extremely useful to have these books at a time when we are at a crossroads with our membership of the European Union and our relationship with the continent as a whole. And Intersentia, of course, are well known as publishers who produce very high quality books for us in this area. Let's have a look at the book first. So it's a paperback. There it is. There's the front, then there's the spine, and then there's the back. And as I say, the book is very much the style of Intersentia. There's no index at the back, it just finishes with the last chapter. It's 500 pages long. The front of the book is there. Then you've got the blurb all about the book. And what you've got is a contents section, and you can see there that the contents runs through, and it names the people who have contributed. You can see all the various headings all the way through. Substantial amount of information given, just running it through there. Again, a lot of detail, so we just cover that bit first of all. Then we get on to the introduction itself, which I think is very important, written by Jerzy, and it's looking very much at the procedural environment, rights and theories in practice. And of course, right at the end, you haven't got a great deal of information about the actual contributors, but what you do have, after the introduction by one of the editors, you then go straight into the subject itself, and then you've got basically for each of the contributors there's a little asterisk, and it will tell you, as is the normal case, it will tell you who that person is and what they've done. And you can see there's quite a lot of footnoting, and there is in some cases some paragraph numbering. You can see it there, and some subheads, but it's not paragraph numbered consistently throughout, but there are a lot of footnotes. As I say, 500 pages, a very interesting look at where we are at the moment with the environment, because the environment is very high up the political agenda, both within and without the EU itself and the continent of Europe, but it's also global, because things are so serious now. There's been so much disagreement and just general ignorance and a refusal to accept the damage that is taking place to the environment, that before we know where we are, it'll be too late. At the moment it isn't, and we've got to make sure that this issue is at the forefront of people's minds within the European Union itself, and also lawyers and politicians, political scientists and so forth, all the commentators, so they have some idea of what's going on. So what do we say about the book? Well, this, once again, Intersentia have published a fascinating and information-rich compendium of research on legal issues from transnational viewpoints across an impressively wide range of legal cultures. You could really define that as the EU to a certain extent, but you see what I'm alluding to. The area of concern in this new Intersentia title is the environment, which of course knows no boundaries, the whole planet. The focus is on procedural environmental rights, the key characteristic of which is active public involvement in environmental protection based on, obviously, public awareness of environmental problems and their possible solutions. And as I've said, I believe the issue is becoming quite acute. My last election campaign, which I lost, alas, it was a big issue, and I don't think it's going to go away. Whatever your party political allegiance, we've still got to deal with the issues. Now, in the words of co-editor Jerzy, Jendroska, procedural environmental rights are increasingly recognised internationally as, quote, an effective instrument for monitoring compliance with and the enforcement of international law. The implication here, of course, is that an informed public can or might engender solutions to any number of ecological problems. And Principle X, of course, you probably wonder what that is. If that comes from the title, it refers to the codification, actually an instrument of soft law, promulgated by the Rio Declaration. Now, I've reviewed books on the Rio Declaration in the past, and again, the Rio Declaration is something that is misunderstood by many people and has been largely ignored by quite a lot of politicians, alas. But it's still there, and I think it's something that we should consider much more, put much more stress on it for the future. The intent, of course, throughout with the book and with what we're doing with Principle X is to uphold the principle of public participation in decision making based on access to information, access to justice, environmental matters, and generally adherence to the principles adopted at Aarhus in Denmark in 1998, which is actually 20 years ago if you think about the dates. This is in 2018, I'm recording this, and you see, have we actually moved that much farther forward? I think we have to a certain extent in some ways, so it's one step forward and possibly two steps back, I don't know, but it's certainly a problem that we should be considering with far more priority. Now, the book brings together the research and insights of almost 24 contributors who together provide a quite stunning range of expertise in this often abstruse area of law. Legal scholars all, they provide informed commentary and insight into issues touching on procedural environmental rights in different jurisdictions, say the editors, and under various legal instruments. Because, of course, as you know, the difficulty is you've got different approaches in different areas, cultural, all sorts of different things come into it, but the basic issues still remain. It's just like my work in politics. It doesn't matter where you go, you still find the same issues, they're still there, and that's just the human condition. But it's the same in law, of course. Now, here then, in this book, is a conspicuously vast subject examined through a pan-European lens, which, even though there is little mention of the United Kingdom itself, is illuminating nonetheless, and because the various commentaries, closely argued and carefully researched all, point up the importance to the environment of participating democracies. And as I've said before, this is a subject that won't go away. Let me conclude by saying this then. Environmentalists and academics will certainly appreciate, I think, the value of the book. It's extensively footnoted and it reveals new avenues of environmental research, and the perspectives it offers in view to us provide a uniquely useful contribution to environmental literature generally, and of course environmental law, both our substantive national laws and our international rights and obligations. And the publication date is actually cited as at 2017, but I'm recording this in 2018. Let's have a quick look at it again. Paperback, there's the front of it, side and then the back. Nice book, nice little book. Now, this is the scope of the review in environmental related disputes in the light of the Aarhus Convention and EU law. Right in the middle, you can see the book. It's got subheadings, it's got a lot of footnoting, a lot of detail throughout, and I think it's a great additional contribution to the continuing debate. So very great thanks to Jerzy and Magdalena for bringing all of this together and continuing the arguments. As I've indicated, the discussions have only just begun. It's not a question of oh, well, we've been hearing about all of this for some time and we're not really that fussed about it. We're going to have to become fussed, and rather quickly and rather sooner than many of us would like. Thank you anyway to everybody involved in this publication, and a special thank you to Intersentia for telling me about the book, sending it to me for review, and also for the work you do. We appreciate it very much indeed. Thank you. Bye-bye.